and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast, bringing you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor. Before we begin, you can jump around the podcast by using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, have you had snow?
I haven't, no, because I'm right towards the south end of the country.
Oh, okay, so no snow for you, unfortunately.
So have you been snowed in? Well, it's not snowed in, but I take it you've had snow up your end.
I have, yeah. Went outside yesterday, tried to build a snowman, had to drive in it, which is always fun when my house, well, you've seen it, it's up a bit of a hill, isn't it? You know, not massive hill, but there's an incline. And then my car started spinning, and there was that moment of, I'm going to have to abandon my car and walk.
No.
But it's fine. I managed to sort it out. However, this morning, woke up to a butt ton more of snow, and there's loads of cars that have just been abandoned. And I don't know what it is. I just want to go out and build stuff. And, like, not with my daughter, just on my own. I was there making food, looking out of the kitchen going, I really want to just go outside and build a castle. I don't know why. I just had
a snow castle.
Yeah, a snow castle. I just really wanted to go out and build one. But unfortunately, I was working, so I couldn't do it.
Harumph. That's it. When you get, everybody wants to wish away their childhood and rush to get older, and then you realize, no, it's boring up here. You don't get to do all the fun things. You don't get snow days.
Yeah.
Snow days just mean you've got to stress about working from home.
Yeah, exactly. And just sitting there going, okay, is my boss going to tell me to come in anyway? And then I've got to figure out how I'm driving all the way into work. But I guess that's one of the great things about having lockdown and everything else is that it's just made it easier for some people to be able to just work from home, which is what I'm able to do.
See,
so
it was always the thing that wound me up when I was in work before I got signed off and stuff like that. They used to tell me like, oh, well, your health's bad, but unfortunately we just don't have any facilities to allow you to work from home when you're not feeling well. I was like, really? There's no facilities. There's no way to make that work. Wow. No, sorry. It's just not possible. It's just not feasible. We couldn't possibly have you working from home. 2 years later. Oh, suddenly everybody's got to work from home.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, okay, thanks, guys.
I had the exact same thing where my manager at the time was basically saying, yeah, you need a really good reason to work from home, i.e. you are really, really, really on the verge of death, ill, or you've got something being delivered and there is nothing else you can do to either have someone else in or whatever. And I think in the course of about 2 years, I worked from home twice. And then obviously COVID happened and it was a case of, yeah, we're all working from home now. Okay, that's great. Do we get laptops, phones? No, you just got to use your own PC. Okay, and how do I connect? Oh, we'll let you know once we know. Right, okay, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, so it's come a long way since then, which is fantastic. And basically, it means that I don't have to step foot outside the house until I think Sunday. So snow being outside does not affect me whatsoever. Shall we move on to the actual news then?
Yes, let's do it.
Lots
of it this week.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about. Starting with Poison Terror type Greninja is coming to raid dens between January the 27th and the 30th, and then repeating on February the 10th to the 13th. Like the last couple, it's a 7-star Tera Raid, so you're going to need some really strong Pokemon to be able to take this down. And honestly, like, good luck if you're playing with randoms, is my experience. I don't know if you've had the same.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's really not, unfortunately.
This is going to be a hard one as well, because your immediate thought is, okay, well, we'll go with steel or we'll go with ground, but the water dark kind of makes that difficult to deal with in and of itself. It's going to be an interesting one, this raid.
Yes.
But let's admit, the whole fan base can rejoice. The best Pokemon in the game, according to fan reaction, is back. Yeah. We all know that Greninja is apparently the most loved Pokemon of all time ever, according to polls. And it was really interesting that it wasn't in Generation 8, but it's back now.
It is back. We've got our. Oh yeah, it wasn't in 8.
It wasn't in 8 at all. It was introduced in Generation 6.
Yes.
And then in Generation 7 we got the Battle Bond for playing the demo. which some people are kind of speculating that it's going to be Battle Bond Greninja that we get here. I don't see that being the case.
No, so the reason I don't see that being the case is that the battle, when I think of the Battle Bond ability, it's close to Mega Evolution. Like, that's the thing that I kind of associate it with. Yes, I know you don't need an item and it's an ability, but that's kind of, in the anime at least, Battle Bond was almost introduced as Ash's
Mega. It separated him out from the rest of the series.
Exactly. So I just don't see them bringing Battle Bond back ever again, to be honest with you, which is a shame because I really do like the look of the Battle Bond Greninja. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Are you going to be taking part in this and trying to get one?
I mean, I haven't taken part in any of the others yet. Mainly because, again, I beat Violet and I kind of just haven't touched the game since.
Right. Okay.
I've picked it up a couple of times to do some video recording, kind of get some footage, and it's just wound me up every time I've opened it. So I just went, you know what? I just don't need that kind of stress. I've got enough going on. I've got other games I can play. So I haven't bothered. I haven't got any Pokemon that are up to level to do these raids. So
no, I'm in a similar position where if I'm going into these very powerful raids, I'm bringing it in my story team, which are like level 80, level 90, which isn't good enough. I get that, but I haven't had time to almost build up a raid team. And against the Cinderace raids, I really struggled because I almost played like support, so helping out the rest of the team, powering them up, using their commands to heal and stuff like that. But in all of the attempts that I had, no one else was playing that kind of defensive role. They were all just trying to hit it as hard as possible, which works up until it gets that kind of shield. And then you really need a strategy to get past that. And unfortunately, when I was playing with randoms, that never happened. So I never got the Cinderace, unfortunately. So, like, good luck to you if you're trying to do this with randoms. Is my experience, unfortunately.
The other part of this as well. I mean, Greninja is now coming back to the game, which means one thing and one thing only, right?
I think
Kalos confirmed for the DLC.
Kalos confirmed, absolutely 100%. If you are not on board with Kalos coming back in the DLC, you just don't get Pokemon.
You just don't understand.
You just don't understand.
Just not a true fan. You gotta believe. If you believe hard enough, it will happen.
I could get on board with this if every single one of these special raid dens had all been Kalos Pokemon, because you would start to think, hold on a second, there's a theme going on here. If Greninja was the first one, then maybe you could have that speculation. But we had Charizard and we had Cinderace.
Which makes me laugh a little bit because it means, okay, what's the next starter going to be? What happens when they get to something like Hoenn, where pretty much, I think you could argue, all three of the starters are loved equally?
Yes. Like, who do you pick?
Who do you pick? I mean, everybody, whether you like Charizard or not, it's common knowledge that it is the favorite of the Gen 1 starters. Whether you like Cinderace or not, arguably, it's the most favored from the Gen 8 starters. Greninja is obviously the best of Gen 6, but Gen 3, Gen 4, some of those are a little bit up in the air.
Yeah, agreed. It is going to be difficult. I don't think it's going... I like to think they're going to make their way through them all, but we've been 2 months, has it been, since launch? So we've had 3 of the starters. So actually, they are powering through these, but it's still going to take a while to get through, 8 times 3, 8, 6, 20, 24 starters, not including Gen 9. Like, that's going to take a while.
Mind you, I don't know if they'll pick up 2, 4, or 7, because those are the starters that are in the Legends Arceus. There you go. I got it there eventually.
True.
So would we get a Tera Raid of those Pokemon, of those starters, of the Hisuian forms. My words are not there
Maybe.
today. I apologize.
Well, the thing is, though, we didn't get Gen 2 starters in Sword and Shield, did we?
No, they were like one of the only ones left out.
So, like, but they were in BDSP, right? I think they were. I swear I was using a Meganium at one point. I might be wrong there. It was a while since I've done that. No, maybe not.
I think BDSP, you could only transfer in Pokemon that were already in BDSP.
Yeah, maybe I'm mixing it up with something else.
Like
okay,
the original Gen 4, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm really confused now because I am confident it was on my layout, but then I was thinking it wasn't a randomizer, which means it was the base game. No, it was a randomizer. No, it was ignore me. It was a randomizer. That's why. Yeah,
but surely the randomizer only pulls from Pokemon that are available in the game.
Yeah, but then the only way to get that is to transfer it in. You can't find.
There you go. It was the fact that it had all the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Up till Generation 4.
That's it. But it wasn't a mainline game, so we haven't had the Gen 2 Pokemon in a mainline game since Sun and Moon.
Oh, I think you're gonna have an argument on your hands there, saying that BDSP isn't a mainline game.
I don't consider it a mainline game. It's a remake. Is how
do you not consider the remakes mainline games?
No. They are.
Really?
I don't. I mean, this is a conversation for another time, I think, because this could go down the rabbit hole. But my opinion is like the mainline games are the first attempts at those games. So the two versions and then the third version, and the remakes are exactly that, remakes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I'd be interested to have that conversation at some point. I know that there's probably people already typing in the comment section on YouTube, so please be kind. On that note, before people get angry, shall we move on to the next piece of news?
Yeah, a really fun one actually.
Yeah,
the Pokemon Company giving a little bit of love to the competitive community for once.
Yeah, so just to kind of break this down, this is it's a video called The Dragonite Comeback. And then on the thumbnail, it says a look back into Pokemon Championships history. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect when you sent me this. But I'm really glad I watched it. Because as somebody that is only recently started to get into VGC thanks to Pokemon Worlds and now trying to play competitively in Scarlet and Violet, it was quite good to look back on some of the history, and especially this Dragonite, which
it's a weird game to pull because it's not a final. It's not, as far as I'm aware, somebody who went on to win the final. It's just a random game, like in theoretically a random tournament.
Yeah.
That they just went, well, this was a cool moment. Look how fun competitive can be.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And it like, as somebody who is watching this and like it's not live, it's, you know, the outcome of this was decided a long time ago, and like you said, I don't know if they went on to win or whatnot, but the fact that they pulled this random bit of footage, and I think the only reason I think that I can think that they chose this one instead of like a winning, you know, team or whatever it might be, is because it was just so random. Like, it was such a example of what makes Pokemon. Like, the battle mechanics of RNG can help you or hinder you, and there's no real control over it. And
so
it's
let's give context to the audience who may not have seen it. There is a video on Pokemon's official YouTube channel now where it's fully narrated as well, which I didn't expect. About a single match where somebody goes down, they lose 3 of their Pokemon. The only Pokemon they have left is a Dragonite. And effectively, due to one turn sleep, it is able to come back and tank just enough hits to get the win on his opponent who had 4 Pokemon left. So it was a 1v4. He was asleep due to Spore, got hit by a super effective Hidden Power Ice, and still managed to come back and win from that.
And just I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but when we say 1v4, it was a double battle, so it's not like they were facing they weren't facing one of their opponent's mons. They were facing two of their opponent's mons, and they also had two in reserve. Like the odds of coming back from that position must be astronomical.
Well, it's even made note of in the video that like Ray Rizzo, who for those of you who don't follow VGC or don't know, is one of the best players ever to have existed.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the famous story about the Pachirisu who won world championships,
yes,
that was Ray
him.
Rizzo.
Oh, okay.
So he won like 3-4 world championships back to back, and is the only person ever to do so.
Wow.
And most people will not argue. Yeah, Ray Rizzo is one of the best players ever to have touched the game. And he's commentating this match, and even he turns around and goes, "Oh well, that's that over then. He's only got his Dragonite left. That's the match over." Wow. And he comes back and wins. And
somehow.
Again, a really weird story to focus on, but as something that's just like, look how entertaining Pokemon matches can be. Look how fun competitive can be. Look how much upset and drama can come out of these. Maybe it's worth watching.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like, as somebody whose first experience of watching the competitive scene was Worlds, I can understand why people invest so much time and watch it. And like, I know that, you know, you can say whatever you want about the quality of graphics and whatnot, but for some people, they won't even care about that. For them, Scarlet and Violet is probably the best Pokemon game because of the quality of life improvements to get into competitive. And Game Freak have removed a lot of those barriers to make it easier than ever to jump into versus fights, including the ability to just rent people's teams. You can look online and find a competitively viable team and jump into it. So is this a case of let's push out all these fun competitive videos, and maybe more people, maybe there'll be children playing the game going, actually, no, I wouldn't mind getting into competitive, and they in a couple of years' time could be the next champion.
Yeah, I think there's a big push at the moment to turn otherwise casual players towards competitive. I was saying to you before we started recording that, like, Wolfie VGC is somebody who has made massive strides in this area over like the last couple of years. His YouTube channel has blown up. He's done a lot of work to kind of make that competitive world feel more accessible to people, to kind of break down this is why this setup is good. This is why VGC plays doubles. These are the kind of thought processes that go into each match, and why, because what I find with sports, and this is always an issue that I think esports has had, is it's the wrestling process. It's not about the individual match being entertaining. It's about the build up. Yeah, it's about who has grudges with who. What's the history here? Why is this match important? Boxing does it. Wrestling does it. Even football, you have the derbies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this is the 5 millionth time these teams have played against each other, but it's always important because they do not like each other, because they have all this history kind of thing. Trying to get that across to a more casual fan is a process, and I'm glad that Pokemon have finally gone, oh, maybe we should start doing that ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes sense. So do you think they are bringing more of these? The fact that I'm pretty sure it even says on the thumbnail, episode 1, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a series.
I hope so. And I look forward to seeing the sort of bits that they pull out, because it's a history that fascinates me. Oh, yeah. I enjoy competitive. I just don't play it myself. But as a spectator, again, sitting there at the Worlds really, really changed my whole perspective on it, to be like, okay, no, this is something else. This is something more than I ever gave it credit for.
Yeah.
Maybe. And it's surprising that, considering the push for esports over like the last 5-10 years, you've got League of Legends does massive numbers. the amount of work they put into their competitive scene. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen any of their opening ceremonies and stuff where they've got holograms and they do all their music and have their own like music videos and stuff play, and it's insane. And Pokemon, being Pokemon, have all these competitive franchises. They have the VGC, they have the TCG, they have Unite now. They had Pokken before they dumped it, you know, and now they're bringing in Pokemon Go and stuff like that. This really should be one of the biggest esports in the world.
Oh, definitely.
And it's not yet. And I think they've realized they're missing a trick and are starting to push towards that.
Agreed. And I think, for me, I think the thing that backs that up is, like I mentioned earlier, just the ease of building a competitive team yourself now. Like, I don't know if there was a video a few months back about somebody that was, okay, I'm going to basically recreate one of the winning teams from, I think, Gen 5. And it took days. And I don't mean like, okay, he's doing like an hour here, an hour there. I mean like over a 24-hour period to track down the Pokemon in certain games with the correct nature, with, you know, tracking down TMs that were single use, and therefore you then, if you wanted multiple of the same TMs, you had to find a way to do that. And like the Pokemon Company, they've done so much to improve that, you know, that barrier of access and bring it down and make it easier than ever to build a team. And I really do think, you know, Gen 9, we are going to see even more competitions or an increase in people getting involved because it's easier than ever. Yeah.
I mean, I will still argue that it could, and in my opinion, should be easier. The fact that we don't have an inbuilt Pokemon Showdown in these games
agreed.
Still kind of upsets me. The fact that, so for instance, my friend, your friend Burno, has been doing the Tera Raids, the 7-star Tera Raids every time they come up. And I asked him, like, why do you do that for 8-9 hours? And he's like, because, you know, it streams and they perform well. I was like, okay, can't argue with that. But the other point is he wants the ability patches. Because if you get the ability patch, you can give Pokemon their hidden ability. And that's what you need to really build a good competitive team.
Yeah.
And they're still really rare drops within the 7-star raids. So you can do it for like 9 hours and get 3.
Wow. Oh, that's not a good drop rate, is it?
I mean, I might be exaggerating there, but the point still stands.
Yes.
That they are rare drops and they are necessary to building competitive teams. So yes, they've made it easier. Yes, it's easier to get hold of these things than it was before. But just give me a freaking Pokemon Showdown. Just let me build something in game.
Yeah, it is a shame because like Showdown, for all its like the only thing that I think puts people off Showdown is probably just the graphics and maybe the interface, because once you get into it and you realize just the depth of, you know, the true quality of life stuff of, you want to battle with Generation 9 Pokemon? Well, just choose the 6 Pokemon, choose what abilities, choose what moves, choose what items, and then give it its EVs and IVs. Okay, there you go. There's your team built within, you know, 10, 15 minutes if you're doing a bit of research and whatnot.
And the thing is, if you want to make it accessible, you have recommended settings.
Yes.
Oh, I want to play with Dragonite because it's my favorite because of my favorite Pokemon. Okay, click Dragonite, click recommended settings, and it's like, okay, it's now got multi-scalability and its stats are built bulky. Okay, done.
Yeah, easy as that. And one thing that I love about Showdown that I really think the Game Freak really needs to implement is that just the random battles where you don't need to build a team. You can just go in and go, you know what? I'm going to just pick random battle. Both me and my opponent get a, you know, random 6 Pokemon that are, in my experience, you can win. No one of the two teams is better. It's how you use them. So neither of you are at a competitive advantage. And you can just play, and it gives you the opportunity to play with Pokemon that you haven't experienced before, and moves and abilities, and learn more about them. Like, the amount of things that I have learned from Pokemon hasn't been from playing the main games. It's been through competitive showdown and randomizers, because they give you the option to try out things that you would never try in a normal playthrough where it's very safe, I feel like.
I mean, Showdown is the only place where I found out things like Rayquaza has access to V-Create.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be Victini's signature move, so I have no idea where that came from.
Yeah, no idea how it gets it, but yeah, like, it is one of those things where there is still more for Game Freak to do in terms of, competitive battling. They have made it easier and easier, but I want to see them really just, basically, like, in my opinion, like, there shouldn't be a reason for Showdown. Like, all that should be in the Pokemon game, surely. I mean, I'm glad Showdown exists, but, like, team builders, random fights, competitive, just all that kind of functionality should be available in Scarlet and Violet.
So there are some rumors.
Okay.
And these are purely rumors, and I would take these with the biggest grains of salt that you can possibly have, that we're going to get some level of, like, PK Hex within the DLC for Scarlet and Violet.
Interesting.
So you're going to be able to build the Pokemon however you want it, which is effectively what we're asking for. Whether that comes to fruition or not is yet to be seen.
Like, they've already...
But I'm down for it.
I am as well. They've already got somewhere where that would make sense in terms of Pokemon Home. Like,
yeah.
As it built into Pokemon Home, that would make sense. Don't get me wrong, like, we need to have a discussion at some point about Pokemon Home's price tag and functionality, because unfortunately, like, I'm not paying £15 a year for the added benefit of PK Hex. But it just makes sense to have it in there where you've already got all your Pokemon stored. And you just go, right, okay, I'm picking this Pokemon, I'm going to tweak it slightly, and then throw it out into a competitive fight. Like, simple as that.
The thing is, as well, like, sorry, just one last thought for you.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of competitive players who use Showdown for training, because it's like, well, I'll just gen in the Pokemon that I want and then practice with them. But the thing is, because Showdown is a third-party website and is basically trying to backwards engineer the mechanics of Scarlet and Violet now, they don't always get everything exactly right. So some interactions aren't exactly the same as they are in Scarlet and Violet, which can lead to upset, really.
Yeah, I can understand.
So, as great as Showdown is, yeah, as you say, it's a shame that it's necessary.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's move on to the main discussion point this week, because it is going to be a big one. It has been 1 year, believe it or not, since the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus. And, with the release of Scarlet and Violet, I think there's a lot to compare there and a lot to discuss about Legends Arceus in retrospect. Yeah?
Yeah. I think we need to get we would usually save it for the end, but let's be honest here. Poke hot or poke not?
Oh, poke hot all the way.
Poke hot.
Yeah?
I still think this is one of the best Pokemon games ever.
Agreed. So let's break it down as to why, what is it about this game that makes it a poke hot? Do you want to go first?
Okay, I just threw my phone away because it was vibrating, but all my notes
right, as you do. Just launch it across the room.
It's just yeet. Right.
Yeah, see it.
Do you know what? It's best described, and funny enough, Pokemon described it themselves. It was their slogan during all their trailers for it. Did you watch the trailers for Arceus when it was coming out? All the ones with the plushes just causing chaos?
No, I never saw them. Oh,
these are great. If you've not seen them, they're well worth checking out.
Okay.
So they've got, like, I think there's a weird one where a woman is, like, flirting with a Hisuian Growlithe. There's another one where a Basculesian just shows up and wrecks a hotel. Okay. And there's another one that's like a Master Chef kind of thing where somebody's like, your cooking is the worst in the world. You are the 2 worst chefs ever. And there's just Munchlax just chowing down on all this food.
Brilliant.
And they're all plushes, and it's really adorable, and it's good fun. But the slogan to all those trailers was, it's Pokemon, but not as you know it.
Oh, wow.
And that is just shining words right at the top. That's exactly what this is. It's Pokemon,
Okay.
but not as you know it. It is the evolution that we have been dying for so long.
Yep.
And I said in one of my earliest theory videos that, like, Legends Arceus feels like a game somebody actually wanted to make.
Agreed. Yes. Like, for me, like, I can't believe it has taken this long to create a game that is based around actually, like, catching them all. Like, and I know that's, I know that must sound crazy, but like Generation 1 and 2 had over in the UK, and I'm pretty sure it was the same in Europe and America, that they had "gotta catch them all" as a slogan on the game boxes, and then we moved away from that from Generation 3.
Yeah, but because you literally couldn't.
You couldn't
initially.
Yes, but it blows my mind that when you think back to all those previous Pokemon games, like, why is it that beating the Pokemon League and the gyms is the main through line and not actually catching them all?
Because when you beat the Pokedex, you got a certificate that you could maybe print out if you had a Game Boy printer, which you didn't.
But I guess the point I'm making is, like, why is it taking this long to make a game where it's like, okay, it's not about the gyms, it's not about competitive, it is about what that initial, I guess, premise was of just go out and catch them.
Yeah,
like,
fill out the Pokedex.
Yeah. And
the
like,
initial thing we set you up to do, please go fill out the Pokedex. Okay, now
and
you actually should go do it.
And this is one of those games where, like, there's been a few games now where I have completed the Pokedex. Scarlet and Violet's the most recent one. And, like, I must admit that I do get a little bit of enjoyment out of, you know, slowly filling up that Pokedex. But it's never been as enjoyable as Legends Arceus. Like, the whole premise of that game is, yeah, go out and complete the Pokedex. Yes, there is a storyline going on alongside it. But the main premise is go out and catch the Pokemon, to the point where, you know, when it drops you off in that first area, it's like, okay, you need to go to the bridge in order to progress across it and figure out what's going on. No, I'm just going to go this way. I'm just going to wander off and I'm going to catch these Pokemon. I'm going to come across a crazy Rapidash that just wants to destroy me and
just wants you dead.
Just wants to kill you. And the fact that you can just go off and explore. And what I love about, one of the things I love about it is that in Scarlet and Violet, when you go off the beaten path and you come across an area where you are underleveled, your first thought isn't to explore the area. The first thought is to go, I'll come back to this at a later stage.
Yeah, because there's not a lot you can do. You can get into a battle and you can maybe throw a Pokeball and you can hope for the best.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Whereas at least in Legends Arceus, you can still explore that area. You can
explore,
avoid the Pokemon as they're trying to attack you.
Yeah.
You can, so for instance, you know that area past the Snorlax in the first, the first local,
the Obsidian Fieldlands.
Yeah. What would you call those?
They're almost, I don't know what you'd call
sections. Let's call it a section.
Yeah.
So the first section, you've got the Snorlax off to the right. Past that, so they've got a little tumblestone crystal sticking out the ground, and it was wiggling. I was like, all right, I'll throw my Pokémon there, and a Graveler popped up, and I was like, okay, Graveler, level 27, not super high, but higher than I can control at the moment. But you know what? I'm gonna sit here and I'm just gonna throw Pokeballs at it.
Oh yeah,
because I can.
Yeah,
because why not? Because the worst that happens is all my Pokemon faint, and then I've got to run away. Because that's the other cool thing about this game is your Pokemon faint. Well, that's not it. Until you're dead, it doesn't matter.
I love that. I absolutely love that mechanic. Like, going back to that Snorlax, like, the first time you wander around there and you see the Snorlax, and, like, it rewards you for trying to be creative. Because in other Pokemon games, it's almost a case of, you've got to run away. Basically, because there's nothing you can do. Whereas this game, it's almost like, okay, I'll sneak behind the corner, I'll throw a couple of berries, right, his back's turned, now I'm going to try and sneak up and use a heavy ball on him, and maybe there's just a slight chance that I catch this Pokemon, and it doesn't always work, and sometimes you do have to run away and reset it and come back. But it rewards you because every now and again, you get to catch these powerful Pokemon early game, whether or not it is the Snorlax that I've just mentioned, or when you proceed the Rapidash, or you proceed a bit further and it's like, right, I'll throw down a couple of smoke balls, or I'll hide in the grass and I'll lure one of the Luxrays over to me, and then I'll try and catch it. Like it allowed you to, like, unlike Scarlet and Violet, which almost punishes you for going against the high level Pokemon, Legends Arceus almost rewards you for trying to do it that way. And
yeah, it doesn't make your life easy, but it makes the reward all the better.
Yeah. And like, just and on that kind of point, because it's linked almost, is that like finding the high level Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet doesn't feel dangerous. It doesn't feel like there's a risk here.
No, well, I better put up a Pokédoll and leave the area.
Yeah. Whereas in this game, it really does hammer home that, like, yeah, they are Pokemon, but first and foremost, they are dangerous creatures that we don't fully understand. And while, yes, you could, sneak through the grass and try and catch them, if you're not successful trying to catch that Snorlax or that Luxray on the first attempt, and it pops out, you are suddenly in almost that fight or flight situation. Do you stay there and potentially try and hit it to stun it, with the potential risk that it's trying to hit you and its allies in the local area might get wind of what's happening and also come and attack you? Or do you just go, I'm out of here, I'm running? But even running away brings a element of challenge and
now
danger.
It's after you.
Yes, exactly. Whereas in Scarlet and Violet, like you say, you throw the Pokédoll, it's almost like the dangerous Pokemon just forgets you. It really doesn't care anymore.
Well, here's the thing as well. I know why that level of danger feels so much worse in Legends than it does in Scarlet and Violet. Okay? Here's how this works in Scarlet and Violet. You run up to a Pokemon. You get into a battle. You both stand opposite each other. You see its level. You have the option to fight or run away. Or use something from your bag. You throw a Pokeball. Okay. Now that you're out of the battle, you can happily walk away.
Yeah.
There's literally no danger there.
Yeah.
Here's how it works in Scarlet and Violet. You run into this you start a battle with this Pokemon. You notice its level. It attacks you. You didn't even have a chance to do anything. It moves first. Your menu has not come up yet. It attacks you. Your Pokemon's knocked out. What do? Do you throw another Pokemon in, or do you run?
Yeah.
And this is what I love about this game, is everything is just so fast-paced.
Yes. Like, I know, like, the fact that, like, even Scarlet and Violet, unfortunately, feels slow compared to Legends Arceus. And, like, say what you want about the strong and agile style system. And I know it wasn't for everyone. I thought it was a step in the right direction, personally.
Yeah.
Because it did two things. First of all, it got rid of the frustration, I guess, of knowing, okay, I'm dealing with this weaker Pokemon and I just want to get the fight over and done with.
Mm-hmm.
In Legends Arceus, it's like, I know I can get the fight over and done with. Strong style, done and dusted, it's gone, perfect. But it also brought that extra element of, okay, I'm fighting the strong Pokemon. What am I going to do here? Wait, agile. I get 2 attacks. Okay, right. So I can chip away at it with the first attack, and then I've still got an attack to do something. So what I found myself doing quite often was agile just to get a little bit of damage off, then strong style to almost finish the Pokemon off, rather than getting in...
Which works really well until you use strong style, and it's left on the tiniest amount of HP,
bits,
and then you've given it 2 attacks to come back at you. And it's like, well, I'll just do a normal attack, followed by a strong attack, which does more than your agile followed by strong in the first place. And I'm like, oh, no. And this is the thing. It's so dynamic. The idea of taking a turn-based RPG and still keeping it turn-based, but having those turns dynamically changed based on your decisions.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What an amazing addition.
Agreed. And it's not even difficult to understand it. Like the fact that they actually have that in the right top right, they actually break down just the order. So it's not even like you're selecting it thinking, oh, I wonder what's going to happen here. You know before you even select the moves. And like I think the agile and strong system ties back in what I've said about risk and reward.
Yes.
Like battling the wild Pokemon of, you know, you can go agile, you can go strong, you can go normal, and each of them have risk and rewards. And like you say, sometimes you take the risk of, okay, strong style, and it survives, and therefore it gets 2 attacks, and suddenly you're on the back foot. And, like, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the later battles in that game, like, the opponents make use of the agile and strong system it probably is one of the more difficult Pokemon games. I know there's not a lot of battling in it, but I think that's to its credit, because when you do battle, like, you're almost thrown through, especially in the end game content, you're thrown a little bit, because you've gone through the majority of this game with really simple battles against your rival, and I'm forgetting his name now. Volkner, is it? No, Volo. You know, you've had really simple battles against them. So when you do finally come across, you know, the end game fights,
and spoilers, by the way. Spoilers for this game that's been out for a year.
Complete spoilers. Like when you come across, I forget the guy that makes the food. Arvin. No. In Legends Arceus, yeah, the ninja guy, secretly a ninja.
Oh right.
What's his name? Yes, like when you finally battle him, and he's a ninja, and. That's, I think, the first time where you suddenly thrown up against a 6v6, and you're like, oh, okay, right, this, like...
We're not messing around anymore.
We're not messing around anymore. And I remember really struggling with that team, because they really took advantage of agile and strong to go, okay, I'll get 2 attacks in, or I'll just go for strong and just knock out your Pokemon. And it was one of the first Pokemon games where I actually remember going, I need to over-level with the team that I've got in order to beat this story element.
What I love is, as you say, it's not got a lot of battles in it.
No.
But almost every single one of them is memorable. I think the only ones that aren't memorable are the ones that are designed not to be. So when you're fighting Bolo at the very beginning of the game, when he's just like testing the waters with you.
Yeah.
But you've then got the ones with the wardens where they just freaking cheat.
Yeah.
And will throw out 3 Pokemon. It's like, well, fight me.
Okay.
Well, there's no rules in this. What, you think you think there's a Pokemon League, a Pokemon Championship?
Isn't. That's it.
No! We're here for survival.
Yeah.
I'm throwing out 3 Pokemon. You want to use 1, that's on you.
Which is another thing that I absolutely love about this game. Like, the first time that you track down a Pokemon, you think, right, okay, I'm going to fight it. And then you're not just fighting the one Pokemon you're trying to catch. Its buddies are also involved. You're like, okay, so I've got to deal with multiple Pokemon now. And I absolutely, like... It's something that is missing, I think, in Scarlet and Violet, of, like, you battle... Don't get me wrong, like, the early routes, yeah, if you're fighting a Psyduck, I can't see another Psyduck going, I'm going to help out. But in Area 0, for example, or, you know, up in the mountains, or over on the top right-hand side next to the Fighting Team Starbase, those areas, like... The Pokemon wouldn't just stand there while you tackle one of its family members, its friends, its offspring, whatever it might be. They join in the fight, surely. And I feel like that is something that's missing in Scarlet and Violet that is so well implemented in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which, again, comes back down to that risk and reward of, you know, if you mess up and you end up battling a Pokemon and it's not alone, you better be prepared to handle multiple Pokemon in a single fight.
Yeah. And the thing I love as well about what I realized really, really early on, because I started the game again for this review, and I got up to like the first Cleavor fight, and I was like, okay, I got up to the first Noble Pokemon. I think that's a decent place to get to for a review. I've obviously completed the game before that. But what I realized is very early on, they show you like, no, the Pokemon in the wild are wild Pokemon, and each one of them will interact with you differently. You've got Bidoof, who... doesn't really care. Like, it's fine with humans, and it'll just go about its business. You've got Starly, that is actually quite sort of skittish and will run away from you. Or you've got the Shinx, which is aggressive by nature, so will attack you. And it struck me that it feels so much more alive than anything we've seen in Scarlet and Violet, where it feels like they either run about doing their own thing, or will run at you.
Yeah.
Those are your two options. And neither of those feel as legitimate responses as we get in Legends Arceus.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Like there are times in Legends Arceus where you wander past a Pokemon and it sees you. It's like, no, I'm gone. Like I'm running this other way. And I can't recall a time in Scarlet and Violet where that's actually happened. Like typically Scarlet and Violet, you approach weaker Pokemon and they just kind of stand there.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
I always think back to like, is it the Manectrics who like will run at you in Sword and Shield and stuff like that?
Yes.
That never feels quite as frightening to me as trying to sneak past an alpha Pokemon, it seeing you at the corner of its eyes, roaring, you fall on your butt, and you're like, okay, death is coming for me now. Time to get gone.
It's absolutely fantastic. Let's actually, that's a nice little segue into alpha Pokemon. What do you think of them?
A brilliant addition to the game.
Yes.
That's so, like, lore-wise, it's such a simple addition. Of course, there's the biggest and the baddest that just rule the roost. Makes perfect sense. We see that all the time in nature. And the fact that, you know, the big red glowy eyes is a fun addition. I don't think it's like, it's obviously not legitimately there because when you catch the alpha Pokemon, they lose that.
Yeah.
I think that's just how your character views them.
Yes.
They got the look of death in their eyes.
Yeah,
they want to murder me.
Pretty much. I think the red eyes is one of those things where, like, I accept it because it's a video game. It's one of those typical things in video games of, okay, how do you showcase something as powerful, strong? And red eyes just does the job, I guess. And I must admit, it works because it helps. Like, not only are they bigger, but then they've got these glowing red eyes. And then, like you say, when they roar, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't just a generic fight. I feel like I'm fighting for my life against this Pokemon, and it feels really strong.
And they're usually higher level. They have access to moves not usually on those Pokemon around that area. And their stats are higher, which leads us nicely onto the stats and how they changed that all up for this game. Because the whole mechanics, theoretically, have been simplified. There's no more IVs, there's no more EVs and stuff like that. It's a case of everything is down to these grit points.
Yes. So,
which, again, as somebody who has been a case of, for the longest time, of I should be able to use my team from start to finish and make them the best team possible. Now, I understand the idea of, like, individualizing Pokemon. Some are just naturally stronger than others. Yeah, fine. But I should be able to make my Pokemon as strong as I want them to be. And I know they've made that sort of accessible with things like super training in the mainline series, but it's so simple and so easy to access in this. It's like, no, you break down grit dust, and then it's like 0 to 5 or 0 to 10. That's it.
It does make it so much easier. And again, it just feels like a really simple way of it comes down to, I think, the game loop, almost the gameplay loop of, you know, they knew, okay, the players are going to be out catching Pokemon that they don't even need. Like most other Pokemon games, you catch a Pokemon once and you're kind of done and dust. It's like, oh, it's in the Pokedex, don't need to worry about it. This game, almost like, that's the way to not play it. It expects you to go out and catch, you know, 10 Bidoof, 20 Shinx, 25 Starly, whatever it might be. And I think they acknowledged quite early on, okay, what are we going to do? Like, is there a way we can reward players for just constantly catching these Pokemon? And if you release them, that's where you get the grit. Is it grit dust? I can't remember.
Yeah, you get the grit dust. And the other thing, because they say it very early on, of, oh, we want you to go and catch Pokemon, but don't just catch one, catch 2 or 4 or 6. That's how you level up the Pokedex, because you don't just get, oh, you know the Pokedex entry now. We're studying these for the first time.
Yes.
We need lots and lots of encounters with them. We need lots and lots of examples of these Pokemon to see the minute differences, to see what is like just one Pokemon being its personality to, oh no, lots of Pokemon across this species do that. Oh, actually, there's lots of different forms of this species. It's so good. And the little tasks that you have, like, this is one of the things I will say. If you're a completionist, this game will drive you insane.
Oh, I have, I think completed Pokedex entries for about 30 Pokemon, and that includes getting the little stamp for doing the fight where it's a 1v1. And I can't remember the name of the dojo and the fighting thing that you do because you can get a stamp. And it got to the point where even I was like, okay, I am thoroughly enjoying this, but I need to take a break from it because some of them just take so long. But from a completion perspective of, you know, oh, so you've caught one of every single Pokemon. Yeah, the Pokedex isn't done yet, unlike the old Pokemon games where it's a case of you catch one of every Pokemon, Pokedex is complete.
I want to see you use it. I want to have you see it use Razor Leaf 18 times. And it's like, all right, cool, thanks. But
like, it adds a realism to it. Yeah. I know it might be an annoyance to some people, but to me, it like if these are Pokemon that you are seeing for the first time in game or like canonically, like why would just getting this Pokemon suddenly fill in a Pokedex entry and be like, yeah, we got the data, move on? Like you wouldn't. You'd be like, okay, we've caught this Pokemon. Now we need to find out more about this Pokemon. Like, what's the smallest size it can be? What's the biggest size? Okay, what kind of moves does it use? Let's see that move in action a lot to figure out what kind of maybe typing power, whatever it might be. And it makes sense from, you know, the in-game lore of Legends Arceus of, you know, the professor in this game, like, they don't know everything. They're figuring this out alongside you. And they are, you know, they're really glad that you are there to help out and catch these Pokemon. And, you know, the fact that the Pokedex is just a book that's full of paper pages that gets, and this is another thing, the quality, the you know, little details, like the Pokedex gets more like worn.
It gets thicker.
Yeah, it gets thicker and more, like the front page gets more worn as you go on through the story. Like little details cool little details. That. Yeah.
And that brings us nicely on to things like, well, let's start with presentation. Because I think I equated this game a couple of weeks ago to Wind Waker. In the fact that it has a style. It has a element to it where it's like, no, this is the kind of game we want to produce. This is the kind of way we want to present it. And because of that, I think it will outlive a lot of other Pokemon games.
Agreed. So the style for me wasn't even something that when I played it, it wasn't like, oh, I don't like this style, or oh, this style is throwing me a bit. It just worked with the time period. Yes. It helps to just bring you into it. You're engrossed with it because it fits with the time period as well. And like I don't think we've ever had such a fluid transition from overworld to the fighting where, you know, the black bars come in from the top and the bottom, so it instantly feels more cinematic. The swoosh that appears in the bottom left to bring up all your you know, your commands that you can give Pokemon. It's gorgeous to look at, and like just the overworld as well. Like the overworld to me looks better than Scarlet and Violet because like Scarlet and Violet almost feels like, okay, what can we make the graphics do? Whereas like what's the best quality we can do? Whereas Legends Arceus feels like, okay, what level of quality can we bring to this in the style that we want?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It was a choice that was made rather than a case of this is as good as we can get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's all the more better for it, to be quite honest with you.
And the thing is, it's style, but there's so much substance behind the style as well.
Yes.
So, for instance, like the level of customization for your character, the fact that you can unlock more customization as it goes on, but it makes sense as to why you unlock it because you do missions for them and they get more. I think the hair dye one, you have to go out and collect certain berries, or you inspire her haircuts with certain Pokemon. It's like that all makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, well, Jubilife Village, the music in Jubilife Village is amazing and is something I will happily listen to for 10 hours at a time. But the other thing you've got as well is like, you are building this village.
Yes.
And you can feel your impact on it as you help each of the people in there. And it's amazing. Like, you start the game, right? we have complained over and over and over again about, you know, Scarlet and Violet feeling lifeless, that the people in it don't say anything. They've got nothing interesting to even say. And yet, the first time you walk through Jubilife Village, you see all the quote marks coming up, all the quotation boxes coming up above people's heads, like, oh, we don't talk to strangers. Oh, what a weird dress they have. And it's just like, I'm picking up all the little bits of story just through these little snippets of dialogue that these people are giving. And it's beautiful.
That's
and
a really good point, actually, because like going through, it's funny because I was playing on Scarlet and Violet earlier on. I was cycling through Mesagoza, and some of the speech bubbles popped up, and the one that stood out to me was one where it's a character talking, and I believe it's French. And the reason it stood out to me is because obviously it wasn't English, so therefore I was like, okay, that's something different. That's gonna grab my attention. And it was only then that I suddenly realized, like, I'm seeing the pop-up dialogue boxes all the time, but I don't read them. I don't pay attention to them. There's nothing exciting about them. There's nothing in them that is, you know, driving story or lore. It is just a case of, it's just busy. It's just noise. It's just visual noise. Whereas you're absolutely right. In Legends Arceus, they give so many like clues and context to the world, the people, their feelings, the cities. Like,
yeah. I mean, I can rattle off, and these aren't even missions I did last night, like when I was playing through the game. These are just ones I can rattle off the top of my head. You got the woman with the shingling, or the Trimecho, where it's like, oh, I don't really want it there. Can you move it around? But I don't want you to just move it. I want you to find the right place for it. Oh, you move it here, it's not happy. You move it here, it's not happy. You move it here, and it's not happy. Actually, you know what? I kind of missed the noise it was making. It seemed really happy here. Let's learn to live together. You brought up yourself, the guy who wants the Wurmple outside, who evolves into the Cascoon and eventually into the Dustox, and he's like, "Oh no, Eugene, what happened? It's okay. I'll learn to love you for what you are." You got the woman who keeps going missing. She's part of the Scout Brigade, but keeps getting lost, and her brother's really worried about her and constantly sends you off after her. You've got the
Mr. Mime one.
The Mr. Mime one.
Oh, it's brilliant. Like, trying to get to the Mr. Mime.
You can help me keep people out of the city who's not supposed to be in it. Great. There's the guy with the big weasel who's like, I just want to see a big weasel.
Yeah, that's all he wants. It's great. He's like, and he just compares the two. It's like, oh, so that's it? You just wanted to see it two versions of the same Pokemon at different height? And like, it's one of those missions that, like, in the grand scheme of the story and history of Pokemon, it makes little difference, but it makes it feel lived in. It makes the people feel like real people.
Yeah, these are stock characters who look the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
But I have memories with them.
Yes.
I have an interaction that stands out of like, no, that's who they are. They're the Weasel guy. They're the Wurmple guy. That's the Chimecho woman. That's all I want from my games is experiences and something I can look back on and go, huh, wasn't that great?
And it's strange because, like, that is completely missing from Scarlet and Violet. Like, there is no... Like, Mesagoza is the closest to what I'd call a hub in that game, but it pales in comparison compared to Jubilife Village, which, you know, is so much smaller than Mesagoza and yet feels so much bigger.
But like, again, it's because we have an impact on Jubilife.
Yeah.
As you were saying a couple of weeks ago, you know, you you help build the farms.
Oh, yeah.
You go out, you get the water Pokemon. You go out, you get the ground Pokemon. They help build the farm.
Yeah.
And and in return, they will grow your apricorns and stuff like that to help with the crafting. And then you can take it around and you can learn more crafting stuff from the craft guy. And it's great. And the two guys who are at war with one another. One of them's a shopkeep, and one of them's head of
procurement or something like that.
The head of the Green Brigade. I can't remember what they do, but they're at war with each other because one of them stole his daughter.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yes,
they're just really intricate little stories that don't need to be there.
Yeah,
but I'm really glad they are. Or you've got the little girl who sent you off to go and search for all the wisps. And then it turns out she might be one of the souls that's trapped inside Spiritomb all along and was just doing one last mischievous little trick.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It is.
Oh, I love it
really
so
is.
much.
Just one extra point, I guess, with that is that the Pokemon that you leave feel like your Pokemon, because if you donate a Alpha or a smaller Pokemon or even a shiny, if you are mad and want to just lose a shiny forever, and you've got, let's say you got a shiny Wurmple, you can give it to the Wurmple guy, and in the overworld, it will still be a shiny. It feels like it's your Pokemon. Like when you're building up the farm and you have to go back every now and again and donate Pokemon to help them expand the farm. And it's like you can choose whichever Pokemon you want. It'll be lost forever, but it almost becomes part of their story. And suddenly, like when you're up there, you're thinking, I remember that Pokemon. That's the Pokemon I donated. That's the Pokemon I have history with. And it feels, it just makes it feel so much more just lived in and just an experience.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, go on.
I was going to say, I think the impact is heightened when you consider the time period as well. So you've got, for instance, the medics within the base, within the HQ. Yeah. There's a woman who is effectively the proto Nurse Joy.
Yeah.
And she's healing people. And then because you have to go out, I think, and get a Toxicroak to help her develop some kind of ointment or some kind of healing medicine stuff. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But she looks at that and is like, if we can use Pokemon to help heal people, maybe people can help to heal Pokemon eventually. And you're like, oh my god,
yeah.
I have just created the first Pokemon Center. I did that. I have not only impacted Jubilife Village, I have impacted the entire Pokemon world and the future of it. Name me one other Pokemon game with that kind of level of, oh yeah, I did that.
I don't think there is. Unfortunately, there might be the odd things here and there, but nothing like that where something that isn't mandatory, something that is just a additional thing that you can do actually means something. Mm-hmm. I think because of time, and we've still got there's so much still to discuss about this.
Can I gush one more thing about characters?
Go on, one more, go on.
They feel bigger than just you.
Yes.
And they feel bigger than just this game. So, for instance, Silene comes up again in Hisuian Snow. Silene and the head of the training area come up again in Hisuian Snow. Yeah. And you find out that Silene wasn't originally part of the Scout Corps, or the Survey Corps, as it's called. She was originally part of the like the defense, the security. Yes. She was originally part of security and then developed the Scout Corps because of the guy in Hisuian Snow and stuff like that. So there are, and you see elements of it. You see her Abra in the background that's like, okay, why do you have that Abra? There's something going on here. And there's just little snippets of, yes, this world is bigger than you. You are a small part of it, but will also influence and make it bigger than it was before you started.
Yeah. So I know I said I wanted to move on, actually, but there's a point I want to make there where, like, in Scarlet and Violet, like, if you told me that the world was created the previous day, I'd believe you, because there's no history, really, in that game. There's odd bits here and there.
Well...
If you
there's going to be people arguing that, well, actually, if you take history class, and it's like, yes, but you don't feel the presence of it.
No. Well, that's exactly my point. Whereas in Legends Arceus, when you rock up, it doesn't feel like the world was created at that moment. You get there, and there is so much dialogue and lore of, okay, this is how we got here. This is where we came from. These are the struggles that we've had. And, you know, you've got all the different characters, and they aren't just there to service your character's, like, progression. They also have their own goals. They also have their own conflicts as well. And again, like, the fact that you have two teams, which we haven't had in a long time, and they are butting heads, and you feel the ramifications of that just in characters. Like, the fact that there are two characters in... on opposite teams by the volcano, it's with the Arcanine, and you know they are obviously a thing.
The Romeo and Juliet story, I love it so much. Iskin and Polina.
I couldn't tell you the names.
I can remember because it makes me so happy.
But this is the thing. Like, these characters don't feel like characters that are just there to push along the story or push along your character's direction. It's almost like, okay, if you removed your character, there is still a story going on. There is still lore. There is still, like, progression. Whereas Scarlet and Violet feels like if you took your character out, it's still a very boring world and not a lot will happen. Whereas you don't get that with Legends Arceus. Right, let's move on to the story in Legends Arceus. Yeah?
Which is fascinating and in-depth and amazing. In fact, it starts off, they replace the professor speech with a literal message from God.
God, I know. Like, that threw me. Like, I remember playing that the first time, and I'm pretty sure I was streaming it, and I'm just sat there thinking, this is
different.
It didn't feel right, but I'm glad they did. And what I mean is, I think that it was great. I think they made the right choice. But when I say it didn't feel right, it's because that's not what I expect. I expect to load up a Pokemon game, and there's one of the characters going, "Welcome to the world of Pokemon. Here's a Pokemon from this region. We do all these things that you already know about." Whereas this, it was like, okay, message from God. This isn't your usual Pokemon game. That was almost the first sign of, yeah, this is different. This isn't your generic Pokemon game. It's not the Pokemon game it's not a Pokemon story as you know it. And it's all the better for it.
Yeah.
And go on.
One of the things I realized as well is, like, it still takes, in fact, arguably, it takes longer to get into this game than it does most others. I think it was like an hour before I was actually running around that first main area, and you can't even cross the bridge, so the full extent of it hasn't even really opened up to you. There's so much dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, we've argued, I think everybody's argued that Gen 7, there's too much dialogue. It takes too long to get going. But the problem is, it's dialogue that is, A, unimportant, because it doesn't really go back to the rest of the game. Either that, or it's something we've already read before, or it just doesn't really show us anybody's character. Yes. Whereas every bit of dialogue in here, although there's a lot of it, it still feels like it's been stripped down to the bare essentials. If it doesn't build character or tell you exactly what you need to know, it's just not there.
Yeah, agreed. Because in all these other Pokemon games, like, you're absolutely right. They don't strip that out. So when you start, it is always the case of, like, there is no, have you played a Pokemon game before? Have you played a mainline Pokemon game before? Yes or no? Okay, you've clicked yes. Let's just strip out all the how to catch Pokemon, critical hits, Pokemon centers, all that stuff. And then you, and unfortunately, in every other Pokemon game, like, if that was the case and you stripped it out, it wouldn't really leave you with a lot of dialogue in the first couple of hours. Whereas this game, if you had, you know, the fact that this game doesn't really go into critical hits or Pokemon centers, healing, blah, 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 outside of the things that are new. So, for example, crafting items. But a lot of the dialogue you get in the first couple of hours is all world building or adding to the mystery of, why does this kid come from the sky? Like, apparently come from the sky.
There's a big rift in the sky and all that kind of stuff.
And that's another thing, the mystery of this game. Like, straight off the bat, you are thinking, okay, why have I got a phone from Arceus? Why is Arceus talking to me? Why is there a big hole in the sky? Why am I dressed in modern day clothes? Like, there is so much there to just go, okay, there's something that I want to find out about. There's a mystery to solve. Whereas, unfortunately, in the 9 generations of Pokemon games, there isn't really a mystery. It's a case of go and do the gyms. Like, this is such a...
You do the story as a method of progression to get to the next gym.
So
the story is never the object. It is never the objective. So, like, you take out Team Rocket because they're in your way, not because you want to take down Team Rocket.
So the equivalent would be like in Scarlet and Violet, if, you know, you started that game and, you know, and this is still why I think Arvin should have been the main character. And, you know, the initial part is Arvin escaping Area Zero and getting a phone call from his dad and suddenly there's this, random Miraidon and Koraidon. The mystery there is, why did he run out of Area Zero? Why is he dislike his mother, father? Why doesn't this legendary Pokemon want to go back? Like, there's a mystery there, and therefore I want to progress the story because I want the answers to this mystery, rather than what we got, which is, okay, I'm just doing all these 3 different paths, and then at the end, oh, by the way, there's something going down in Area Zero. Do you want to just go down there and like help out?
Okay, here's the issue with that, which is if Arvin was the main character, Arvin has a whole history which the player doesn't know. Now, here's the really cool thing that Legends Arceus does. If you look at every Pokemon game, you are a brand new character going out on a brand new adventure. And that's why they always talk to you as if this is your first Pokemon game, because it's your character's first time interacting with Pokemon. Whereas in Legends Arceus, you're already a Pokemon master. Theoretically, and this is a theory that's been batted around for a while, this is Dawn, or I forget what the male character's name in Diamond and Pearl is, but there's an idea that this is actually a sequel to Diamond and Pearl, that you are the champion from Sinnoh who is being sent back in time like 3 years after those games. So you don't need to know how to catch Pokemon. You don't need to know how type advantages works. You don't need to know any of this because you're already a champion. And the game treats you like you've known Pokemon for a long time, which is why I think it sits so much better for older audiences.
Yeah. Because
it's not talking down to you. In fact, a lot of the time, it talks up to you. You are something special within this world.
I think... So, yeah, you are right. Like, in the context of the game and talking to the characters, it does make sense that they would explain how to, catch Pokemon, use Pokemon sets, because your character in story has never done that before. It is brand new to them. It is a new experience. However, like, unfortunately, most people have played the Pokemon games, and I think it's to the story's detriment that is the case. Unfortunately, that they treat both the character and the person playing it as someone new to it, and like you say, yes, talk down to them. I think what I mean
is every mainline Pokemon game is designed to be someone's first game.
Oh yes, definitely.
Legends Arceus isn't.
So, but that's the thing though. Because there will be people, and obviously we don't have figures of it. There will be people that this is someone's first Pokemon game. But do you think that they are lost because they don't explain all the usual stuff that they have in generations 1 to 9?
See, I don't know if this... I mean, obviously someone will have picked this up for the first time, but I just don't think it's designed like that. I think this is very much supposed to be, as I say, it's Pokemon, but not as you know it. You're not going to go out and go, oh, that looks like a fun game, but I've never heard of Pokemon before. That's just not going to happen. This is for people who have known and loved Pokemon for a long time, or maybe fell off it some years ago and go, oh, wait, this is different. This is more for me.
I can understand that. I think there will be people that have, coming back to Pokemon or never played Pokemon. And I do believe there will be people that have never played Pokemon and go, and because they look at it and go, nah, that kind of RPG doesn't really appeal to me. But look at this and see the stylized version of it, a different battle system, and think, okay, I'll jump into that. But what I love about this is that, like, it doesn't feel like you need to have played other Pokemon games to jump into this one. And that's difficult for me to say because obviously I have played so many Pokemon games. But looking back on when you start and outside of... It only really teaches you the new mechanics for Legends Arceus.
So here's my counter to that.
Okay.
They turn around to you at one point and go, I think Akari, or I forget what the guy's name is. I don't know why I forget the guy's names all the time. But they turn around to you at one point and go, oh yeah, and types. Some Pokemon are more effective than others in battles. And literally flash up the entire freaking type chart at you and go,
about that.
Good luck, have fun.
Yeah, I forgot about that. What? So... Let's shall we jump into let's continue the story then, because we didn't really we did the start of the story. Let's talk about, should we talk about the five
the nobles?
The nobles, because that is the main. So that's the main crux of this game outside of catching Pokemon, is that there are five noble Pokemon who have gone wild, berserk, for lack of a better word, and you have to
frenzied is the word that's used in game.
That's it. And you have to work alongside the. Oh, it's been so long. What are the names of the minders, whatever they're called? They are
the wardens.
The wardens. That's it. So you have to work alongside the wardens, do a couple of tasks in order to create these bombs, and then take on the noble Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few things to unpack there. Should we start with the actual fights against them?
Yeah, arguably, I don't think Cleavor is the best one to who have started with.
No, agreed. It should have been,
because it implies that there's going to be environmental things that you can take advantage of in all of them, which there kind of aren't.
No. It should have been the I can't remember the name. The Lilligant.
Hisuian
Lilligant. Yeah, it doesn't have another name. Right, I don't know why I thought it did. It's the fact that we said Cleaver and it threw me, because I was like, oh, it's a regional version of Scyther, and it's not, I know. But like what I loved about these fights is that, again, reiterating what we've already said, I guess, is the fact that they feel dangerous. They force you to dodge and learn the mechanics. Like, you can get through those fights without actually sending out a Pokemon either. Like, you can just use the bombs to take them down, or at certain points you can throw out Pokemon. I will take people's criticisms that they aren't difficult enough, but
I don't know.
So
I will say the Lilligant fight was the first time where I felt threatened, and the Arcanine was the Arcanine one was the first one where I actually died doing it.
Okay, so the Lilligant one was the one that I think, personally, from my experience, should have been first, because I found it really easy, to the point where it was like quite insulting that
Sorry, I lied. Not the Lilligant one, the Electrode one.
Okay, the Electrode. So what, you thought that one was the easiest?
No. The Electrode one was the first one where I felt threatened.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, no, that is because suddenly, like all the other ones, it almost felt like, okay, I've got plenty of space to roll around and move out the way. The Electrode one was the first one where it felt like you were constantly running, and no matter where you evaded to, like, it wasn't far off. So I guess my original point is that, like, I don't think they were difficult enough, but like there's no difficulty selector, and therefore they needed to make something that was accessible for everyone. So while I found it really easy to beat most of them, it was only the Electrode that I struggled a bit, and then the Avalugg, which is the first one I think that I died to a couple of times. Like, my daughter, on the other hand, struggled with the majority of them, and she was only, I think, 8 at the time. So I can understand why they could have gone further in terms of, let's make these even more difficult, but I'm kind of glad they didn't, because it leaves it more accessible to everyone.
Yeah. And I think accessibility is a big factor when it comes to Legends Arceus versus mainline games, which is, no matter your, like, I've played Pokemon games when I couldn't even read and done just fine. I've played Pokemon games when I've been strapped up in bed, literally unable to move my body, and just used my thumbs to move around, and played absolutely fine. I don't think I could play Legends Arceus if I was in like an unfit state.
I'd agree, yeah.
Because you've suddenly got to think fast. You've got to, play a game. It's
yeah. Well,
there's actual skill involved.
Yeah.
Not to say there's not skill involved in normal Pokemon, but it's a different kind of skill.
Yes. Like,
you've got to be an quote unquote actual gamer to play Legends Arceus.
I understand that, because the great example of that, I think, is Sword and Shield, where, and I don't know why they've removed this, the casual controls. Like, you can play with a single Joy-Con, and I miss that. Like, bring that back, please. But then in this game, like, you need to be moving the camera, walking around, rolling, like, ready to react. There's a lot of
there's a higher skill floor. I think, to Legends Arceus than there is to any other Pokemon game.
Yes. Oh, I'd agree. I'd agree with you there. There's other types of skills that are required in other Pokemon games about, learning typings, moves, and predicting how much damage they'll do and all that. There's different levels of skills. But I think one thing that I did like about this is the fact that it allowed you to use skills in a Pokemon game that typically you wouldn't. I have played Dark Souls in the past, I've heard people say, "Oh, it's Dark Souls light." I agree, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that, because if the Pokemon went the full Dark Souls experience, I wouldn't want to play Pokemon. It would be too extreme. This is just the right level of, it takes elements of all the main elements that I love from Pokemon: battling, catching, and, being able to free roam, roll around, interact with real-life Pokemon in terms of avoiding, dodging, stunning them, whatever it might be. It's just that perfect amalgamation of things, and it just works perfectly when you're having to take on these 5 powerful Pokemon. And again, another thing that I love about them is the fact that these are all new Pokemon that we hadn't seen before.
The Nobles, yeah.
Yeah, the Nobles, yeah. They were just, brand new Pokemon, and when we've spoken about in the past about Scarlet and Violet and wanting to be able to interact with Pokemon and feel like they are alive, what better way to make them feel alive than a Cleaver just, flying across the map and trying to slash you? Or the Electrode rolling around and exploding? It makes them feel even more alive than they ever have done, I feel.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
And...
It's such a stunning game. Sorry,
it is.
I'm just fanboying a little bit.
Yeah, me too. It's an absolutely fantastic game. So let's jump ahead to the actual story then later on, the end game of this story, because I'm a bit conscious of time in terms of, I think let's start from when you are kicked out.
Cast out. Yeah. It was actually really funny because one of my friend's daughters has been playing through this recently, and she was like, I just can't believe that somebody fell out the sky and they trust them without even questioning it. I'm like, no comment. No comment.
Yeah.
Because what a twist.
Yes.
You get the twist of we blame you now.
Yes.
Because you're the outsider. Of course, everything's come down is happening because of you. And it's that makes so much sense. We've seen that so many times of these backwards thinking ways of just you're new, therefore it's your fault.
Yeah. And because in all the other Pokemon games, that wouldn't have been the case. If you'd have fallen from the sky in any of the other generations and they would have seen you as the chosen one, they would have followed you. All the other characters would have followed you to the end of the world. Whereas this one, from the character's perspective in-game, it would make sense that, while you're helping, there's a lot of unanswered questions that you can't answer. And suddenly, we understand that you've helped us a lot. However, we don't trust you just because you've helped us, because there are questions that no one can answer, and actually you might be a danger to us. You might be the reason these Pokemon, became frenzied, and the fact that we've suddenly invited a load of Pokemon into into Jubilife Village, courtesy of you, suddenly, I can understand why they cast the player out, because they're looking at this going, there's a lot of coincidences here about this character who's turned up and the help they've provided, and maybe we are just, a few days or a couple of steps away from, frenzied Pokemon on our, not even on our doorstep, in our homes. And the fact that you are cast out, and it's almost like you are literally given the walk of shame. It's not even cinematic, or you are just thrown outside. The fact that the character forces you to walk, and if you try to stop or move around or anything else like that, and Silene just stops you and goes, come on, please come along. And you've got all the speech bubbles popping up above people's heads. And it's suddenly that moment of, I don't know where this story goes now. I was so confident that I knew it was going to be a case of, the 5 beating the 5 noble Pokemon and then probably going up to the mountain to finish the game, which I know does happen, but it doesn't happen in the way you expect it to.
No.
And,
I love it so much.
Yeah. The fact that you're cast out and then, you've been cast out because of I don't know the words. You've been cast out basically because of people's fear, I guess. And yet the bonds you have built up with these characters means that they all help you in different ways. Whether or not it's, you know, the professor supports you. Silene, you get to use it. Abra, don't you, to get about. Volo supports you. I mean, Volo has his own reasons for supporting you, but he introduces you to... What's her name? I can't remember. Cynthia's ancestor?
Not Gita. Oh, God. Hang on. I have a video about it. Let me double check.
Buy me time. Okay, I will buy you time. I love this game. Like, honestly, there are bad things. I do need to point out there are bad things. I don't want us fanboying over it. But, like, the good outweighs so much, like, massively outweighs so much of the bad. The gameplay mechanic of actually, you know, catching Pokemon, using Pokemon to get items, filling up the Pokedex, the alphas, the exploration. Like, this is the first game, actually, that probably rewards exploration compared to Scarlet and Violet, where there isn't really much exploration to do. Like, this is one of those games where you can go into nooks and crannies, you can go into caves, you can destroy, you know, blocks that lead into caves, you can go into rivers and lakes.
It's Kogita, by the way.
It's what, sorry?
Kogita.
Kogita. Which does sound a bit like Gita, actually, doesn't it? Yeah. That's why, yeah. Like, the fact that all these characters come together to support and help you, and then you make your way up to the top of, is it Spear Pillar?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's not Spear Pillar yet.
Yes.
Because it's not Spear Pillar until it gets destroyed.
Yes.
Which is... It's so cool to see the same place, just like, but it's history.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And making your way up there, and some of the twists as well, like the Benny twist was just, like, when you're wandering through, and it's not, when you see him there, it's not a surprise. You're thinking, okay, like, I know I'm going to have to battle this person, but the fact that he turns out to be a ninja, I'm pretty sure it's implied that he's taken out enemies of the Galactic, I can't remember the name.
Team Galactic.
Yeah, like he's taken out enemies of them before, and then you make your way up, and you know you're still not trusted, and then basically just everything goes wrong. Like you are cast out. The legendary Pokemon, like the fact that you have to fight both of them, don't you? From what I remember, yes,
so
you do.
You catch one.
And then
you catch one, then you have to fight the other.
Yeah, and the way that that's selected is based on your answers to questions earlier on in the game about which one of the two
clan you choose.
Yes, which clan you choose. Like, that was fantastic. Like, what I loved about that as well is it gives you so many more options in the story, because unfortunately, like, the fact that we have two versions kind of means that they have to limit some of the story or encounters, because you can't use both Pokemon, because they want a reason for you to buy both versions. You don't have to worry about that. Like the fact that this has you battling both of them in their different forms as well is just, I just love it. Like, you get up there and suddenly it's not the end of the game as well. Like, the fact that you get up there, you figure it out, and yet there's still a big hole in the sky.
Yeah, and then you're going to go around and catch all the other legendaries, and then you eventually have the fight with Volo, and it's just... It just keeps going.
It just keeps going, that's it. Did you see the twist coming?
What, the Volo was evil?
Yes.
No.
Well, not really.
I was a little bit suspect of him.
Yes.
Which, again, playing through the game again, you have that first fight with him in town, and he's got a Togepi, and his music kicks in, and I just sat there like, how did I not know you were evil?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The hints are there, but it does a really good job of hiding it. Whereas, what game have I been playing? What game? I've been playing Lego Star Wars, and Palpatine appears for the first time, and my daughter sat next to me, and she just goes, "He's evil," and I just turned around and went, "Why do you think he's evil?" And she's right, but it's the fact that they don't try and disguise it, like. Yeah. The fact that in this game, they hide it, and they hide it so well. And the fact that he's there to help you. And At
But the thing is,
first,
it plays on the player's preconceptions as well of like, oh, you're Cynthia's ancestor because you look like Cynthia.
Yes.
And she used to show up all the time and help me through a bunch of stuff and was really interested in history. So naturally you would be.
Nope. And like they even reinforce that when you come across, is it Kagita?
Kagita. Yeah.
Kagita. Like you like to me, when that happened, you're with the tent, you see these two together, you think your first thought is, oh, these are Cynthia's ancestors. Cynthia's a good guy, therefore these two are good guys. And I'm still convinced Kagita is. However, Volo, like towards the end, once you've caught all the Pokemon, which is another thing, like first Pokemon game, you have to complete the Pokedex in order to finish the game, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
I think you don't have to.
Not complete. You have to catch all the Pokemon.
Them all to. You don't have to catch them all to fight Volo.
Do you not? Oh, okay.
No, I think you only need to catch them all in order to fight Arceus at the end.
Oh, okay. But the fact that you get up there and, you know, Volo gives his big speech and his hairstyle, that did the hairstyle, fine, whatever. Like one minor little criticism in this massive compliment of a review of, okay, his hairstyle and everything felt very out of place.
Do you not like his Arceus cosplay?
No, I don't. And it just felt a little bit too much, I guess. But that kind of implies that he knows who Arceus is, right?
Theoretically, yes. There's so much theories that you can pull from this. Like,
I can imagine.
It's really weird that despite the fact that this is clearly a Japanese region, there's so much Grecian influence.
Yes.
So, like, the Celestica people, all of their ruins seem to have, like, those Greek-like pillars. You've got Volo's dress and stuff like that. It's fascinating. I love it so much.
It really is. What did you... So, for me, one of the big twists was Giratina being in this. I didn't expect that.
Well, Giratina... It goes back to that thing of, like, none of the battles in this game are fair. Because you have a 6v6.
Yeah.
Then he pulls out his legendary.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out his legendary again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it feels like... So, but again, I love it because you finish that fight and you feel like you've earned that victory. You feel like... And it's one of those... I remember playing that, and it's one of those fights where, like, if you ran this game with items, like, without the ability to use items, you would lose them most of the time. Like, I was popping revives and healing potions, like, whenever I could, because I was on the back foot, because this Giratina was just wrecking shop. And it really did make it feel like, you know, I think, unfortunately, to the detriment to a lot of other Pokemon mainline games is you get to the legendary, this is the most powerful Pokemon, we need to stop this Pokemon, otherwise, you know, the world is going to suffer because of it. I'll throw a Master Ball. Done and dusted. Whereas this, like, there is no fallback. Like, okay, this is someone that needs to be stopped. This is a Pokemon that he has. You can't catch this Pokemon. You just need to fight. And it makes it feel so much more earned, and it makes the stakes feel so much more real compared to other Pokemon games that a lot of the time mishandle the legendaries, I feel. This is a game that handled the legendaries with respect.
Well, even in the fight where you do have a Master Ball, you have the Origin Ball.
Yes.
You've still got to do the whole running around and dodging thing to get them down to a level where you can throw the Origin Ball at them. Yeah, it's so good.
It really is. So, go on.
We're going to have to move on to complaints. We're going to have to.
Yes, we have to. There aren't many for me, though. I think the world's a bit
sparse.
The world's a bit sparse. I can agree with that. I think for me, the fact that there aren't very many lived-in areas isn't an issue for me, because there wouldn't be a lot of lived-in areas, because like the clans are quite small. They keep to themselves. There are the occasional elements where you come across, you know, structures and buildings that have been there before. I think I would have liked more of them personally, and I think I would have liked more, you know, an odd forest, like more forest or more shrubbery, more Pokemon, more caves, more rocks. Like I think there are large areas where it does feel a little bit empty, unfortunately.
Yeah, agreed. I would also love to see some level of online. I get that this is not a game that was built around like multiplayer and online battling and competitive and things like that. And to be fair, I think it's such a good single player experience because they narrowed down their focus.
Yes, agreed. While I think there is a lot you could have done with, Scarlet and Violet, one of the great things, and one of the things that I expected them to mess up on that I think they did quite well, but there are limitations and bugs, is being able to have multiple people in the same world roaming around. Not as great as it could or should have been. Like, this is one of those games where Legends Arceus, I feel like it would have benefited from it because, you're both in the grass. Okay, right, I'm going to go right and throw a berry. You go left, sneak around and try and catch it, or we both use mud bombs. However, like, it's not a criticism. It's something that I would have liked to have seen, but you make the right point that this game benefits from a smaller scope where it is just single player.
Yeah. I think where they've been able to narrow that down, what we've got is a really good experience that has been crafted really well.
Yes.
Rather than them trying to appeal to multiplayer and competitive and anybody who wants to do the solo and the shiny hunters and this and that. One last thing, I forgot to bring this up, and I'd shoot myself if I didn't. The sound design in this game is fantastic.
Oh yeah, the music's beautiful, and all not even just the music, all the little, like, the pings and the pops when things interact and you move the controller, like, just little things like that.
When you catch a Pokemon, it sounds good. When you backstrike a Pokemon, it sounds amazing, and you feel the impact of it.
Yes.
The shiny sound. I know people complain that the Scarlet and Violet doesn't have the shiny sound, but I had a shiny when I was playing through. Like, again, I only played through up to the first Cleavor, and I got a shiny. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's one of the worst shinies you can have in that game because it's a shiny male Combee. Okay. And yet, I was still really excited because I just heard the ring. I'm like, oh, okay.
So, Conor, what you've done is, I think you gave us one criticism and you've moved back onto compliments.
I can't help it. I like it so much.
It's so good. Right, I have got a criticism with this game, and it's the textures in places. So sometimes when you're looking at shirts or just I'm trying to think. The shirts was the big one for me, where it looks almost like
it's been blown up,
which I can't figure out how that came to pass. But it's obviously something that you notice. However, it didn't detract from such an amazing game. But like the fact that it also happens in Scarlet and Violet, confuses me to no end. That this is something that is happening in two games. Like, I don't understand how, like, and part of me was thinking, okay, like, when I remember playing it and just thinking, okay, right, the characters just this second come in, it'll render in. No. Any second now. Any moment now. It never happens.
Kamado's shirt as well.
Yes.
Which is like one of the main characters, and you got like the 3 little circles.
Yeah.
And it looks like somebody's taken a 12 pixel by 12 pixel thing and just stretched it and gone, that'll do.
Yeah.
No, it won't. That's not good enough. Sort it out.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing for me is the pop-in. Now, it's strange though, because it gets worse later in the game when you can fly and things. So the pop-in for me was something that I didn't notice, to be quite honest with you, when I was playing it the first time, except for Pokemon popping in.
Mm-hmm.
However, as of this week, I watched a review on it by, I think, Digital Foundry, which reviewed a lot of the Pokemon games. And then when I played Legends Arceus again this week, I suddenly really noticed it. I was like, oh, okay, but I missed it the first time. Like, completely just missed it. It didn't bother me, didn't take me out of it. And yet,
for me, it was when you get Braviary towards the end and you can literally see the field drawing in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
But compared that to Scarlet and Violet, where, like, I really noticed it while playing. But I think it's because, like, I think it's kind of forgivable in Legends Arceus because it's a bad element in an overall really positive game. And, you know, there's only a handful of bad things in Legends Arceus compared to Scarlet and Violet, where... Go on.
I think the draw distance is longer in Legends Arceus as well.
It is.
Like,
yes.
Especially because they have that same, like, oh, if somebody's off in the distance or if a Pokemon's off in the distance, its frame rate is lower.
Yeah.
But you only really notice that with flying Pokemon who are really far away.
Yes.
As opposed to somebody who's 6 feet in front of me.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Like I was in the town in Legends Arceus, and I was deliberately looking for it, and I couldn't really see. Like, people really far away, yeah, it's you could notice it if you were looking for it, but it wasn't as invasive as it is in Scarlet and Violet, where, like, I know the answer because it's two development teams, but I don't get how it looks like it's not as noticeable in Legends Arceus and more noticeable in Scarlet and Violet when one came out a year ago, one came out a couple of months
There's
back.
a lot less going on in Legends Arceus, and
True.
It's trying to load a lot less at once.
True. But for me, that is a benefit and a positive of Legends Arceus because they didn't try to go completely open world.
Now, I think we've both agreed before that that's to Pokemon's benefit. I don't think Pokemon, at least not the way they've presented it to us so far, really fits an open world.
Yeah.
I think it works in more individual little sandboxes.
Semi-open world.
Semi-open world.
I think, like, open world was one of those things that I had on my, perfect Pokemon game wish list.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so sure anymore. But I don't know whether or not that's because Game Freak butchered the execution of Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it.
I think it is. And I think one of the great things, again, back to the positives of Pokemon Legends Arceus, like, 5 different areas, and they all feel different. They're all different biomes. They all, you got the rolling fields, you've got the marshes, you've got the mountains, you've got the ocean, you've got the volcano. Whereas Scarlet and Violet, a lot of the biomes just bleed into one. Like, to the point where you've got hills, lake, couple of beaches, a mountain, and area 0.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, you could quite easily say in Legends Arceus, you got the field area, you got the marsh area, you got the coastal area, you've got the ice area. But even within those, there are different places.
Oh, yeah.
Quite distinctly.
Definitely.
I think it's just, as you say, it comes down to execution, and Legends Arceus was executed better than Scarlet and Violet.
Definitely. I've got one last criticism to wrap it up. No DLC. Like, that is criminal. I would have happily paid money.
The same amount again.
Yeah,
probably.
Oh, yeah, easily. I think I got it for £32.
Oh wow!
And I know I cottoned onto a bargain. Like, I pay another 30 quid for DLC in this compared to Sword and Shield, where, like, in hindsight, I enjoyed the DLC, but at the time of buying it, I felt robbed. Whereas DLC for this, I would have happily paid more money to get back into this game. Go on.
I was going to say, let me quick fire a couple of last little bits that I've got here.
Okay.
Just because, again, I am also aware of time. Crafting, beautiful addition to the game.
Yes.
I'm really sad that it's not in Scarlet and Violet. I think having crafting in the game, having me be able to create my own potions and Pokeballs and things like that, made searching for items in the overworld actually fun. Searching for items in the overworld is also really quick. Much as the way as everything else in this game, this has been quickened up. You can use one Pokemon gets thrown out there, that collects one thing, use a different Pokemon to throw it over there, that collects a different thing.
Oh, yes.
I'm also going to use a different Pokemon to throw over there while I'm waiting for that Pokeball to tell me whether it's caught that Pokemon or not. Like, it all just goes on at one time. And considering Scarlet and Violet is said to be this game that, is a seamless experience, is never going to slow you down, it slows me down a hell of a lot compared to Legends Arceus.
Mm-hmm.
The menu system is the best we have ever seen.
Yes.
And should be taken forward forever. Just take this menu system and make it every game going forward. Evolution, it isn't in the overworld, but my god, does it look good and feels so thematic.
Yep.
As you get it, once again, just coming down to presentation. And battles, the fact that I can read what my Pokemon is doing whilst the Pokemon does it.
Yes.
It's such an easy implementation. Just make that the case for everything. Anyway, And those are my
Okay.
quick fire points.
I think I've got a couple of quick fire points. One is kind of tied in what you said about the speed is the fact that one of the things I love about this is when you reach the post game and it is a case of trying to shiny hunt, and you can just ride the bravery and drop down into like a bunch of Pokemon in the grass, and you're suddenly hidden in the middle of a bunch of Pokemon, and you just throw off Pokeballs left and right to catch all these Pokemon. Absolutely fantastic implementation. The fact that I don't need to trade Pokemon in order to evolve them, and I can just use the link cables and stuff like that. Thank you so much, because not everyone has friends that they can trade with. It's an absolute nightmare to arrange these kind of things. So the fact that I can just just evolve Pokemon with items, thank you. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we've not already?
One last thing as
Go
well.
on.
The multiple approaches to catching Pokemon. You can either fight them, or you can use bait, or you can drop smoke bombs, or you can, just hide on top of a cliff and just hope that it leaves you alone. It felt a lot to me like the early Assassin's Creeds, where it's like, oh, I have a plethora of options to approach this one task.
Yep. Agreed. I don't think I've got anything. I could sit here and talk about it a lot more, but there isn't any quick fire things. I'm worried about opening up a discussion again when we're an hour and 45 minutes into the podcast. But
look, I love this game.
Yes.
I really, really do. It brought a lot to the franchise that I feel like it's been missing. And I hope they bring some of the elements over to a mainline game, or barring that, give me more Legends games in the future.
Yes, definitely. If you asked me now, would I rather see a Gen 10 or a Legends game? Hands down, a Legends game.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, while there are elements of Legends I would like to see ported into the mainline games, I think, unfortunately, thinking about this now, maybe they don't do it because they feel very separate. Gen 9 Legends Arceus feel very separate, and if you port the more mechanics you port over from Legends Arceus into the mainline games, the more suddenly the next Legends game doesn't feel special, because it's like, okay, it's literally just a different story. All the mechanics, in terms of catching, battling, whatever, they're also in the main game. It's going to be, I'd imagine these must be conversations they are having over at Game Freak in terms of the future of Pokemon and the direction of the next, bunch of Pokemon games. It's going to be really interesting to see what they decide to do. But Legends really was the breath of fresh air to the Pokemon franchise that I expected Scarlet and Violet to be from the conversations we had and the trailers we saw that didn't pan out in the end. And it's amazing to look back on Legends Arceus, and my experience with Scarlet and Violet has made me fall more in love with Legends Arceus.
Agreed. And the thing is, I think Legends Arceus is maybe the hope I'm holding on to for the franchise. It has allowed me to take Gen 9 for what it is and go, yeah, but there's still something there.
Yeah.
There's still hope for the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is going to be interesting to see what they do, because it is confirmed at this point that for the most part it was two development teams, right, on these two different games that didn't communicate or interact.
As far as I'm aware, they didn't really interact. I cannot find the source for that information anymore, but I'm almost convinced that I read it.
Yeah. And if that's the case, it will be interesting to see whether or not they do. It's almost like Gen 9 was a victim of the success of, okay, we've got a project we want to work on over here, to the detriment of Scarlet and Violet. But I'm glad that happened because of the quality of the game that we got with Legends Arceus. So it's going to be interesting if, they almost look at these two teams and these two games and go, somewhere in there is a game with elements from both of them and extra things that they need to address that would make a really good Generation 10. But that's the
thing is, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Game Freak are notorious for learning the wrong lessons.
Agreed.
So
yes.
It'll be interesting to see what they go with going forward.
It really, really will. Is this the second week in a row where we're skipping over?
Gonna have to. It's just
yeah, because of the time, unfortunately. So, once again, no Pokemon Master Journeys discussion or the guessing game, because the guessing game is... Or do you want to do the guessing game and I'll come up with some new ones?
No, I feel like it's tied in too.
Okay, it is. The Pokemon I've chosen are from from those sections. Let's move on to comments and questions then. We've got a question from Tony over on YouTube. If you could come up with a signature attack for your ace or mascot Pokemon, what would it be? What's the base power, PP, and what's its effects, if any? Have you got any that you can just...
I have one that I can come up with right off the top of my head. For Arcanine, would be effectively a fire type extreme speed. Okay. So it already has access to extreme speed, but it doesn't get stab bonus from that. So I would love to see like a legendary flash, because it's notorious for its speed. It's called the legendary Pokemon because of how fast it travels across the land and stuff like that. I would love to see that be like a combination of extreme speed and flare blitz. So it would either have extreme speed's base power of like 80 with the 5 PP and stuff like that, plus 2 priority, or you boost its damage up to maybe 100, which is halfway between extreme speed and flare blitz. So you still take the recoil damage that you get in flare blitz, but it does less damage, but you get the priority. I'm not sure how that would work in balancing, but either way, I want fire type extreme speed.
Okay, very nice. I think what I'd like to see, so I've got two. One, just a general move that I'd like to see, but one is for Meganium. So what I would like to see is, I feel like I can't remember the name of the move where basically you set up roots and you just you regain
Frenzy.
HP.
Oh right, no.
Every turn.
Oh god, yeah.
And I can't remember what
Ingrain.
Ingrain. So I like the idea of Ingrain, but I don't think you get enough from it, unfortunately. What I think I would like to see is for Meganium potentially a version of Ingrain that also increases defense and special defense. And you could do something like lowering speed, for example, to kind of balance that out. Because unfortunately, my experience with Ingrain is like it's almost a waste of a turn because you will never recover enough HP to kind of to balance out the fact that you are now stuck in that fight. The ability of Ingrain restoring HP, but also, you know, boosting your special defense and defense actually makes it worthwhile. So no base power. PP, like, it really doesn't matter. It basically should just be 1 because once you're in range, you're stuck in the fight. But let's go with 5. Another move that I would like to see, and I've had this in my mind for years now, and it comes as a result of playing the older Pokemon games where your opponents spam items. I would like to see a priority move that basically outspeeds item use, but the way you would balance it is, so I'm talking about like, you know, when you're fighting the Elite Four and they spam Hyper Potions because they're on like the sliver, they're on the tiniest of HP, they're in the red. Like, it's a move that connects before they get a chance to use item, but the downside is that if they aren't using an item, the move fails. Obviously, useless in competitive, however, very useful in just playing base Pokemon games.
You know there's heal block, right?
Yes. However, for me, like, the difference there is heal block just prevents your opponents from healing, whereas this actually not only prevents that, but allows you to knock out your opponent. So there's a benefit in terms of, like, going on the offensive.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the difference.
Wait, I'm trying to think. It's not heal block. Heal block stops healing moves as well. There is a embargo. Embargo is the move that stops you using items, I believe.
Yes, that sounds about right. But again, it's one of those moves where, like, embargo, you like, how often do people use embargo? Not often. At least with this one, I'd imagine you would see more use for it because it's an attacking move. You can actually use it to finish off an opponent, whereas those two previous moves you mentioned don't let you finish off a Pokemon. So yeah. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, or by leaving it on our Discord channel. Should we throw out the usual of if you send us an email and it's clean, we'll read it out.
Priority.
It's priority. There we go. What have you got coming up this week, Connor?
Well, this week I've not long just released my I Was Wrong video.
Ooh.
Which was the trailer breakdown that I mentioned a while back.
Yep.
Not the trailer breakdown, the stream
Yep.
shrink down. Basically, I talk about the fact that I was wrong in one of my earliest videos that made my channel blow up.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed it, and it's had quite good response, actually.
Yeah, I did.
Being fairly positive about the fact that I'm willing to own up to these things.
Yeah, I did. I watched it, and before I did, I commented. What did I comment? Something about, I'm just going to grab me popcorn.
Grabbing the popcorn and heading into the comment section.
Because I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be really interesting. So I put that, watched the video, and then I went into the comment section, and everyone was really positive about it and responsive and, like, praising you for actually, like, talking about this, owning up, because most people would just, like, move on
the video.
Yeah, or just move on and just like pretend it didn't exist. So the fact that you actually, spoke about that, and like I think it comes back to us doing this podcast. We're not experts, we don't know it all. We are just two people really enthusiastic about Pokemon that want to discuss it. And sometimes we might get things wrong, unfortunately, but it's not because we don't care, we don't do our research. It's just because we don't know everything.
We do be human after all.
Exactly. In terms of what I've got coming up this week, this goes live on Friday, so next week is the finale of the cage lock between me and British, because it has been going on for so long, because Scarlet and Violet is such a large game into like for doing a randomized Nuzlocke, because there are 18 different things to do, and then there's Elite Four endgame. Anyway, so that's coming to an end, final fight. And then I've been doing some competitive on Scarlet and Violet. So I've been renting teams because I haven't got time to build the teams myself, but I've been renting teams from players that have ranked at least top 32 in competitions. Some of them have been really fun to use. Some of them have been useless. So I have recorded videos. So I've recorded 3 videos so far, each with 5 battles. These 5 battles use the rented team. And basically, one of the reasons I'm doing it is not so people can come along and go, okay, I can learn from this person. Because for me, it's the experience of I'm learning as you are. Because I don't know the best mons to use in a situation, or the best moves, or, I'm looking at my opponent's 6 Pokemon, then I have to pick 4 of those Pokemon to go into with the double battles. And I really enjoy doing double battles and competitive as well. I can understand why that is the go-to format. It like the fact that you've got 2v2 and there's so many options. Like I don't know how these videos are going to do. I don't know if they're going to do well, but I don't regret making them because I've really enjoyed doing it, and it's something I'm going to continue doing. And that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just a top dollar, aren't you? Connor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget, or on Twitter at CapFidget.
I'm Ben. You can find me as Professor Hoenn Gaming on YouTube and Professor Hoenn on Twitter and Twitch. As for the Goldenrod Podcast, you can find us on the usual platforms. Search for Goldenrod Podcast on YouTube or on your usual podcast app. Leave a like on YouTube or a 5-star review if you're listening as a podcast. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya!